Today promises to be as liberating and as powerful as usual. We are discussing a very important topic today. In This is the third episode of a third subtopic under the main topic sovereignty and power, food sovereignty and empire formation. The first part of the main topic that we started about sovereignty and power was the religious and spiritual sovereignty. I spoke about how some people in some race have understood that if you control the spirituality of people, you can conquer them, you can dominate them, you can erase them, you can subjugate them, and you can survive. A good example, I gave different empires. I talked about the Roman Empire, I spoke about the Ottoman Empire, and I spoke about the Sokoto Caliphate. Look at the Fulanis. Can people actually point to a land that they own in Africa? Can you point to a land flowing with milk and honey that they own in Africa or West Africa? Can you say this particular part of the Fulanis has enormous oil and gas reserve? They have nothing. But there's one thing they've been able to master for the past 400 years, and that was what they learned during the Songhai Empire. Where the Fulanis goes to, it wants to turn himself or herself to the custodian of Islam. It is not ordinary. It wants to make himself the custodian of Islam. That is what the Fulanis does. That is what the Fulani ideology is. You can't blame them. These are people that know that that is the only thing. That is why you see within it, you see what they did in Ilorin was very simple. Why the Yoruba Balogons were more interested in political power. Alimi did not argue with them. He just said, I just want to be the leader of all Muslims. Since this place is an Islamic state space. It was very straightforward. It was very strategic. Our people were not smart to understand. It took our people 100 years later to understand the mistake they've made. But what happened? They were able to change the emirship into not just a religious institution, into a political institution. It is the same system that they are trying to build in Nigeria. They made themselves the permanent leader of all Muslims in Nigeria. That is the first step in order to when in their quest, when Nigeria finally becomes a full-blown Islamic state, they are surely so the head of all Muslims is what the Sultan. So the Sultan of Nigeria, of the Nigerian Sultan, needs to become the Sokoto Caliph. He's become the Sultan of Sokoto. So it's going to move and transit from being the Sultan of Sokoto to become the Sultan of Nigeria. They are very, very strategic. It is the same system. It is the same system. Go and look at every places they've taken all over West Africa. They always come to a place and say they are preaching Islam. They get there, even though the people there are already Muslims. They start telling the people there they are not Muslims enough. Before you know it, they start a revolution. By the time they start the revolution, they start saying they are doing it because of, oh, people should fear hell. Before you know it, they take over power. The same system for different places, in different spaces, in different time, has worked for different people. So we spoke, which is why it is absolute madness for anybody to think we are going to keep quiet and fold our arms, for people to go and register an NGO and say that because of that reason, your territory now leaves Sokoto, you are now speaking for the entire 36 states of Nigeria. We will fight against it, we will mobilize against it, we will protest against it, we will pray against it, we will resist with everything in our blood. And we are so grateful for many Islamic leaders in Yoruba land that has been fighting against this madness for the past 70 to 80 years. So I spoke about that was the first 3 weeks, 2 weeks ago. And last week, I spoke about the oil and gas sovereignty. How oil, how energy, fuels have always been the fundamentals of empire formation. I spoke about the role coal played in the formation of empires, the role coal played in the formation of empires. And one of the empires is the United Kingdom. I spoke that coal is what built United Kingdom. When you hear places like Newcastle, you hear places like Liverpool, those are places that coal built. You see places like Enugu, they call Enugu the coal city. That place was built from the scratch. It was a bush. That was the only major city that the Igbos ever built, and it was the British that built it. They built it from the scratch because there was coal. So the energy sovereignty was so important. Immediately, oil and gas was discovered, and oil and gas be in commercial quantities all across the world. And oil and gas was seen as a better source of energy in order to be able to power cars, aeroplane, ship, train. So people stopped using for coal, which was not generating more energy, compared to oil and gas. So that is why he who controls oil and gas, he who controls the means of production, the continuous flow of oil and gas, will actually determine the future. Many people don't understand why Nigeria cannot use electric vehicle. You see, you need a massive electricity infrastructure for you to be able to use electric cars, electric buses, and to be able to use all this infrastructure. Because many of this infrastructure need they are energy taking the energy high energy consuming facilities. So ṣẹ́yìn tẹ́ pé ẹ̀ tí ì rí iná lo aṣọ lásán, aṣọ sì ń rún mọ́ yín lára lẹ́gbẹ́ máa ń sọ̀rọ̀ electric vehicle. So it is impossible for you to move to the next level of human development if you don't have these fundamentals. And energy, and so David, if you want to have massive industrial, massive energy, you look at Dangote refinery. One of the things Dangote refinery first did was to build its own energy generating plants, electricity generating plant and transmission. That was one of the things that forced the hands of the art of the oligarchs, of the unitarists in Nigeria, to say, okay, states can now generate their electricity. Because why should Dangote be allowed to generate its own electricity, and a state like Lagos cannot be allowed to generate its electricity? So that is the fundamental. That is the fundamental. So let's now talk about sovereignty and power. Sovereignty and power, about food sovereignty. Bí oúnjẹ ṣe kéré tó people underestimate the importance of food. People don't actually pay attention to importance of food. Before talking about the importance of food and going into the lecture proper tonight, please, if you've not shared, if you've not reposted, if you've not invited your friends to this lecture, please kindly do it. I beg you in the name of Olodumare. Kindly send it, kindly invite your friends, kindly invite your friends and families, because we're about to discuss a very important topic tonight. And once again, my wonderful host, Olodumare will continue to be with you. Olodumare will continue to protect you, Mr. Jolomi. Ẹ ṣé púpọ̀ o. I also want to greet all the TYF and TYF Political Action Committee members that have been on the field for the past 4 days. You've been in different places in Lagos. For those of you that were in Kogi State, for those of you in Delta, for those of you that have gone to the field in Ogun State, those of you that have gone to the field in Oyo State, those of you that have gone to the field in different places across Yoruba land, promoting Yoruba nationalism, the reason why we must practice Yoruba self-preservation, grassroots mobilization towards the 2027 election. May Almighty God continue to fortify you. Many of you might not have the gift of the ability to speak, to be eloquent. But what you are doing is far, 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 far greater than the than the gift of eloquence, which is the ability to go into the forgotten corners of our homeland, to be able to mobilize our people so that our people can understand that in democracy they must participate. If we do not want our land to become like Zamfara, if we do not want our land to become like Maduguri, we must understand that our life depends on our votes. Votes matter, democracy matters. Our kings no longer have the ultimate power. The power of life and death is now in politics, and we must participate in it. We must organize our people. We must organize into a formidable institution. We must organize into a formidable power block. We must organize properly and efficiently. Please, I want to really, really thank you. May God continue to fortify you. Gbogbo ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ ti délé, ẹ̀yin tẹ́ ẹ ti délé, tá a tẹ̀ ṣe ń bọ̀ látẹ̀kọ́ for what? Because different nurses, medical practitioners, volunteers did a yeoman job to be able to reach out to thousands of people for the past few days. A dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín gan. We are surely going to be unveiling Tinubu, Savior of Nigeria, campaign in the next couple of days. You are going to see our logo everywhere unfailingly tomorrow. So we are surely going to need your help. I also want to thank all the Twitter influencers, the social media influencers, Adex, Yoruba, Nimi, um, which other platform is that? Bolutife, Africanism Culture, Easy Money, Tatuni, all our TYF branches, all our TYF platforms that have been. We also want to thank the Yoruba Times, the admin of the Yoruba Times for the job well done, for helping us in promoting these our platforms. We also want to thank the chairman of Amuwodofin local government, the critical stakeholders of Amuwodofin local government for helping us. We thank all our sponsors, those that have given out of that have dipped their hand in their pockets, both our elders that have supported us in ensuring that we could mobilize thousands of people. I want to thank the IT department of TYF Park or TYF. I want to thank the entire executives and non-executives of the entire institution of TYF. It's not an easy journey, a journey of more than 8 years. One way or the other, we continue to strive, we continue to move together, to continue to lay a foundation for the future. May Olódùmarè continue to be with you all. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín gan. I want to thank those of you working behind the scene on different projects of TYF. Mo dúpẹ́ lọ́wọ́ yín o. Dáadáa yín ò ní bàjẹ́. And if you really want to, we are surely going to be putting out links and platforms. If you really want to join us, you want to participate, you really want to volunteer, please, we surely need you. They need you. I beg you in God's name. I am just a mouthpiece of a message that is needed for this generation. You can see what is everything we foresaw, everything we foretold since 2021, since 2022, that is surely going to happen, not just in Africa, not just in West Africa, and not just in Nigeria, and even in Nigeria, and even in the world, has come to pass. Just go over, just if you can be searching my tweets for the past on Facebook, on Twitter, for the past 5 years. I didn't want to do that because everything has come to pass. We are not prophets, but God has given us the ability to see beyond the present. When it was very, very it was not possible to be able to talk about Yoruba nationalism. We were here speaking like the people in the wilderness. I also want to thank our Muslim brothers and Christian brothers that are fasting, those participating in Ramadan, those participating in Lent. May Almighty God accept our act of worship. So tonight, It's a wonderful night. And don't also forget we are preparing for the global conference of the Yoruba Global Conference. Um, it's going surely going to be taking place between in the middle of this year. So if you also want to participate in that, reach out. So there's a lot of wonderful activities ahead of us. This is what we do year in, year out, consistently in different places of the world, all across the world. And God has been wonderful to us. He has continued to strengthen us. He has continued to give us wisdom and understanding. He has continued to lead us across dangerous waters. He has continued, God has been so wonderful. Even when we felt that will TYF survive, TYF has continued to survive. TYF does not belong to Arekurumi. TYF does not belong to Oladimeji Bolarawa. TYF does not belong to anybody born of a woman. TYF belongs to Almighty God. And TYF belongs to all Yoruba people. We are just lucky that God gave us the ability to be able to start to be the leader of this wonderful platform. Like I said, I'll be going into the lecture proper now. I had to use that opportunity. And on Saturday, before I proceed, on Saturday, legendary Joe is going to be our guest, our special guest of honor on Yoruba Rono. So it's going to be wonderful. So we want to be having a mix of young people, old people in their 70s, 80s, top leaders. We are going to bring in others, former senators, former leaders, House of Rep, honorables. We brought the former House of Rep. We are going to be bringing kings, where we are going to be cross-fertilizing the young, the old, the aristocrats, the rich, the traditional leaders, the political leaders, intellectuals, where we are going to be fine tuning our intellectualism, our fine tuning the younger generation so that we can be fortified for what is going to come. This is extremely critical. This is extremely critical because TYF cannot be everywhere. I myself, I cannot be everywhere. But with all of you that are listening to me tonight, you can take the message to the four corners of the whole world. The Yoruba message of nationalism is no longer a local message. It is a global message because the Yoruba people has become a global people. That is why they said it is bigger than Africa. That word is it is not just a fanfare. It is not a bragging, it is not a braggadocio statement. It is a message that if we actually understand it, it is to call for intense hard work in order to achieve what that statement actually means. We are going to work hard for the next 100 years. But unfortunately, what I see around, we've not even done 0.5% of what needs to be done. So tonight, we have to go into the topic. So I will have literally 1 hour more. So we are going to be finishing by um, the 11:30. If I'm right, so 11:30. So for those in the UK, that's 10:30. Maybe some from people in America, that would be like maybe 5 p.m. Or 6 p.m. So tonight's topic is sovereignty and power, full sovereignty and empire formation. If any empire cannot feed itself, it will surely collapse. If any empire, if any city, any human settlement cannot provide food for its population, it will collapse. This fundamental knowledge, as basic as it was the fundamental of urbanization in human history. Human history and humanity understood that if you do not have the ability to produce food in huge quantity, you will never be able to build any sustainable human settlement. That is why it is desert areas do not have large populations, while the tropics has huge population. There's a reason. You are going to see that along great rivers, there are huge human population, huge cities. But outside those great rivers, where there are no great rivers, you don't have huge cities. And along great rivers, that is where you have great civilizations. I'm going to give two instances. One of the greatest civilizations in the world was built around River Nile. River Nile, which is the Egyptian civilization. The Egyptian civilization was built along the Nile River, and the Nile is called the life of Egypt. And what did the Nile bring to the table? The Nile gave the people of Egypt the ability to cultivate food in huge quantities, which was what made it possible for them to build those great civilizations where people can come all over the world in order to be able to settle down and to be able to sit down and to be able to settle and build great cities. For Christians that are listening to me tonight, I'm going to give you an instance that there was a time that there was famine in the land of Canaan. And God told Abraham, because we have to use things. It is not, there's nothing we can do. Our people have become Muslims, our people have become Christians. We have to just meet our people halfway and use what they understand so that they can understand the message of Yoruba nationalism. In the Bible, there was a particular place where there was famine in the land of Canaan. And what happened? Jacob and his sons, they heard that there was food in Egypt, and they had to take their entire family and they moved to Egypt. They relocated to Egypt because all over the other part of the Middle East there was no food, and it was in Egypt that they had to go to survive. So you can understand that Egypt did not just become a superpower. The Egyptian civilization that people praise was not just built based on its technological, philosophical, geometrical, or academic sophistication. It was also the ability of Egypt to be able to have agricultural stability, to have food stability. So you have to understand that fundamental. We have to understand that fundamental, that from the days from for more than 4,000, 3,000, 5,000 years ago, that it has been so the ability to have food all year round to support a population of over 100,000, 300,000, 400,000, not just in one year, decades after decades, century after century, as what has been able to determine if a particular group of people can build an empire and why some people cannot build an empire. It is not even the ability to say you have the best weapons. You can have the best weapons and you can have the best fighting men, and hunger is going to destroy you. A good example were the Biafrans in Nigeria. But I'm still coming back to that. So that is why you understand that when countries go to war, one of the things they do to themselves is blockade. When countries go to war, one of the things they do is siege warfare. Siege warfare is not just saying that you are trying to prevent people from moving. Siege warfare is that you are weaponizing hunger. You are weaponizing hunger. You are destroying the food sovereignty of another city state, of another empire, in preventing them from being from having any form of freedom. That is why you see that one of the system, one of the ways that some people are currently fighting, one of the ways some people are currently fighting back, by trying to destabilize Nigeria, is to displace the rural population. Because when you destroy the food, you destroy the food, you destroy the food sovereignty, you are going to destroy a society, you are going to destroy the population, you are going to destroy the fundamentals on which every society functions. So how are the Yoruba people able to build empires? The Yoruba society was able to urbanize, not firstly to rebuild the city states. We evolved from village to towns to city states. Then we evolved from city states, we built empires. How are we able to do it? We built it, we were able to do it based on two things. One, the tech, the ability, we perfected and advanced metal works. So because we had one of the best metal works, we were not just producing weapons of war that we used to defend and protect ourselves. We were able to have these metal works. These metal works these metal works these blacksmiths were able to produce agricultural tools. So agricultural tools we were able to use these agricultural tools to be able to open up vegetations and to be able to produce food at a rate that could sustain millions of people. So when you so this was something that was very unique in sub-Saharan Africa. The people that had this advanced knowledge of blacksmith. That's why when you see people when you see deities, they call them orishas like Ogun being praised in Yoruba mythology, in Yoruba history. It's not just because Ogun was a super. Ogun is being praised because of the greatness of the things he brought to the able for the Yoruba people. Ogun was being praised because of the knowledge, that special knowledge. We praise Awolowo today, we praise Awolowo. If it was 500 years ago, Awolowo would have been turned into the Orisha of education, even though he did more than that for us. But what Ogun brought was that advanced knowledge of iron works. And because you could produce iron, you could produce tools, machetes, you could produce hoes, cutlasses that you could use to clear vegetations. You could be able to farm thousands and thousands and thousands of acres. We could produce food. Our city states could produce foods that can also feed tens and tens of other city states. Before you know it, cities were merging together and we created empires. Not just one, not just two. And we were able to take this knowledge of this knowledge of food, of agriculture. And that was why Yoruba civilization was one of the greatest civilizations in the world. We could expand, we would get more territories, we could assimilate other groups to become Yoruba. That was this food sovereignty was extremely critical in Yoruba civilization and power. This food sovereignty was very, very important in building the Yoruba civilization and power. So for instance, and there is nothing new under the sun. Don't say, oh, but Are is talking about 1,000 years ago of history or 3,000 years ago of history. If you are lucky and you study courses that many of our soldiers, these generals, top military officers, they say they go to Sandhurst advanced courses. What they studied here is ancient military tactics, ancient military strategy. That was what it was. Food sovereignty that destroyed Biafra. Biafra could not get food sovereignty because of three things. One, Biafra could not get food because they were blocked off from the sea. There was a naval blockade on them. Two, Nigeria prevented food from coming from the Benue axis from getting to Biafra. Three, Nigeria made a pact with Cameroon that the food will be prevented from coming from Cameroon into Biafra, because that was why Nigeria gave Cameroon Bakassi. Bakassi was what Nigeria gave to Cameroon in order to ensure that they could not do more than that in order to ensure that there was the Biafra lacked food sovereignty. Biafra had the scientists, Biafra had the oil and gas, the Biafra had the brains, they had the international support. Almost more close to 10 countries already recognized the independence of Biafra. The Igbo diaspora were sending money to ensure that the war effort was going on. But what happened? You cannot fight on empty stomach. That is why till today they still try to pin that their inability to have full sovereignty against the Yoruba people on the Yoruba people, which is why it is very, very dangerous for the Yoruba people not to have a good working relationship with Benin Republic. It is dangerous for the Yoruba people not to have a friendly state. It is dangerous. It is pure suicide for the president of Benin Republic to be an enemy of Yoruba people. And it is also dangerous for the Beninois, for the president of Nigeria to be their enemy, because we never can tell. Because once you blockade, if you blockade Benin Republic from the Yoruba from the Yoruba race, we are in trouble. This is what the Hausa Fulani understands, that you cannot attack and destroy Niger Republic. Niger Republic, they are people, they do not have sea access. They don't have sea access. So if the whole of Nigeria is fighting against Niger Republic, against northern Nigeria, against Arewa, once the border between them and Niger Republic is opened, they will get everything they need. They will use the land corridor of Algeria to bring food supply and any supply they need from Algeria. They can use that land corridor of Niger Republic to bring anything from Morocco. They can use that land corridor of Benin Republic to bring anything from Libya, because they understand that once you are blockaded, you are going to lose some form of sovereignty. Let's also go further. One of the reasons why the sanctions against Russia is useless and has been useless is that, apart from the fact that Russia is an oil and gas superpower, Russia is also a food superpower. Close to 30 to 40% of flour, of wheat, that is being used to feed the entire world is coming from Belarus and Russia. It's coming from Belarus and Russia. If Russia and Belarus, they stop, and Ukraine, they stop exporting food to the whole world, the world is going to have food inflation. The world is going to go hungry. It is the flour, sunflower, vegetable oil that you are getting from Russia, Belarus, at a very cheap and subsidized rate, that is ensuring that close to 1/5 of the whole world is not hungry, because Russia is food. It has food sovereignty. Russia has food sovereignty. That is why it is very, very difficult to destroy Russia. It has food sovereignty. That was one of the things they got right. The ability to feed itself. And the reason why Russia has been able to do it, because Russia is an empire. Russia was an empire. Russia has never stopped being an empire for the past 800 years. From Russian Empire, they became the USSR. From the USSR, they became the Russian Federation. But if you look at it, you look at the map, you look at the structure, you look at the components, even though they've been cut into sizes, it is still an empire. It acts like an empire. It has the structure of an empire. It runs like an empire. It runs like an empire. And if you look at the structure, even though the difference between Russia and the United States of America is that Russia does not change president every 8 years or every 4 years. That is the difference between the Russian Federation and America. You go and look at the diversity. You look at the history. Both of them were built to look like Roman Empire. Don't forget, the America is called the New Rome because America is built just like the Roman Republic. The current America, the structure of America is built like the current Roman Republic. You also look at Russia. In fact, the title of the kings of Russia is called the Tsars of Russia. It means Caesar, the Tsar of Russia. So almost all the countries you see in Eastern, all the superpowers of Europe, all of them wanted to be like Roman Empire. Roman Empire was the standard. Roman Empire was the standard. That is why the Yoruba situation is a little bit very, very complex. And which is why I stay away and I'm very, very careful of people who have become tribalists. They become hate mongers in the name of trying to speak about Yoruba history. They've turned themselves into hooligans on social media. It's a bitter truth I'm saying. Fortunately, we have a resilient civilization. They will only self-destruct themselves and destroy their political and traditional careers in Yoruba land, not taking the rest of Yoruba land with them into their madness. Because Yoruba land is very, very complex. And I'm going to tell you why. You look at the Southwest alone. Southwest has 3 empires. Out of the Yoruba empires, it has 3 empires. You have Ife Empire, you have Ife Empire, Ibadan Empire, Oyo Empire, all within the Southwest. So how do you bring, and you still have the remnants of this imperial stool and imperial authority. So there is no way you are not going to be having a fight for supremacy in them. It's impossible. But we need people that we need to do. What the core knot has done to be able to manage the ego and the differences between the Sokoto Caliphate and the Kanem Borno Empire. But unfortunately, the Yoruba land has been struggling to have people with master statecrafts that are interested in managing these different polar powers in our midst. You look at Benin Empire. Benin was an empire. Igala was an empire. If we knew what we were doing, all these different empires should have, even Dahomey was an empire. But fortunately, one way or the other, we've been able to bring Dahomey back into our orbit, even though Dahomey is in Benin Republic. The Fons and the Yoruba people are having have a strong relationship due to their 500, 600 years of history. That is why they are forming a political bloc in Benin Republic, which is helping the Yoruba people there in sustaining the Yoruba civilization currently in Benin Republic. But look at what we are doing in Nigeria. You do not even understand that you are not what you call Yoruba is no longer a tribe. It's not an ethnicity. It's not a nation. It's a civilization. And when you say civilization, you don't say civilization. It's a civilization. It's no. There is responsibility that comes with it. There is discipline that comes with it. There is martial prowess, martial sanity that comes with it. That comes with it. So we need to be able to do what needs to be done, which is the ability to organize, which is the ability to understand our position in history. So food sovereignty is extremely critical. It's extremely, extremely critical. Most empires, that is what they find. If you blockade America today and say America is not going to bring in food, America is going to survive. America has the capacity to feed itself. That's why I said America is an empire. Don't joke with it. It can fight on the defensive and it can fight on the attack. It's not because I'm praising America. Same thing as Russia. They can fight on the defensive and they can fight on the attack. They built themselves for war. It was intentional. One of the problems of Germany also has a form of food sovereignty. Germany has it. Germany has it. Have the ability to, so if you want to feed itself, even though it's going to be tough, it's going to feed itself. But Germany does not have oil and gas. That is why Germany invested billions of Deutschmarks trying to create synthetic oil, find substitute for oil and gas in order to be able to power its war machines in the Second Republic, all to no avail. All to no avail. If China, if Germany has just half of the oil America has, Germany would have become would have reclaimed its position as the superpower of Europe. They would have done it again. So you can understand. That's why many people say that Nigeria has every means to become the superpower of Africa. Nigeria can have food sovereignty. Nigeria can have oil and gas sovereignty. Nigeria can have all forms of sovereignty because Nigeria has all the potentials to have all this sovereignty that actually determines power, that actually determines sustainability. The days of empire building is back. That is why it is criminal. You look at what we are doing in Nigeria. You are seeing that a particular group, a particular ethnicity, has basically crippled the agricultural base of Nigeria. That is a war. You look at the way thousands and thousands of farmers have either been killed, tens of thousands of farmers have been killed for the past 10 years. Now you kidnap farmers on their homeland, kidnap their wives. You tell them to go and bring 50 million before you can free them. Farmlands are being sold off before you bring them back. Before they are able, you kill maybe the wife or you kill the husband. What are you doing? You displace farmers. You create artificial farming. You look at places like Benue, places like Taraba, Nasarawa, Southern Kaduna, Niger State. Those are basically places where Nigeria is being fed. I saw this former governor of Niger State that was doing propaganda, trying to act sane, trying to act liberal, trying to act moderate. I'm so happy that there's a popular saying that says propaganda has an expiry date. But we say you cannot propagandize yourself and catapult yourself within 4 years and say you want to do agricultural revolution. How? What are you doing? Because we are not focusing on fundamental. You cannot have food sovereignty where there's no security. You cannot. When there's no security, there can never be prosperity. We are only deceiving ourselves, which is why some of us are so happy when we saw the issue of state police. Because Awolowo said it, that without state police, Nigeria can never be great. Without state police, Nigeria can never be free. Without state police, the issue of Nigeria being a proper federal system, proper federal system, it's basically a farce. So we are so grateful that state police is back as a front burner of Nigeria's in Nigeria. We are so grateful because we must have the ability. Because without security, Nigeria cannot assert its sovereignty. You will not be able to assert any form of sovereignty. You will not be able to assert any form of oil and gas sovereignty. You will not be able to assert any form of food sovereignty. You will not be able to assert anything. In fact, you will not be able to assert Christian spiritual sovereignty. Are they not going to churches to go and be kidnapping people? Like my friend used to say, I have a friend that used to say, we don't longer talk. He says, only the living can shout praise the Lord. I just used to laugh. See, that's what they used to say in their church. Only the living. It's true. If you are not alive, will you be able to shout praise the Lord? Only the living can go and worship in mosque. If you don't have security, if you don't have security sovereignty, you will not be able to have any form of sovereignty. I even listened to a particular man saying, God forbid, you look at situations, you look at major crisis, war, that people are going to be dying at the rate that they will not even have enough people to bury them. Enough people will. Don't you see that when they say they kill 300 people in a day, what do? They do mass burial. Are you not seeing it? Water that happened 2-3 years ago, 1,000 people were massacred in Benue State. What happened? They just pack people into a grave, they use caterpillar. They could not even dig ground for 1,000 people. That's how bad it is. That's how terrible it is. So the ability for you to say, look, if Nigeria finally wants to, Yoruba máa ń pa òwe kan pé tẹ́bí bá ti tán nínú ìṣẹ́, ìṣẹ́ ti bùṣe. Because we understand the importance of food sovereignty. And food sovereignty is not by saying, everybody, ẹ máa gbin tomato sẹ́yìn kùlé yín, ẹ máa gbin tomato, ẹ máa gbin rice sí àgbàlá yín. That's not what we are. Look, God forbid, if there is famine, people will tear down your fences and come and loot your place, and nothing will happen. Nothing will happen. It is because there is peace and tranquility that you think you have fences in your area. And fence when Adami, even they will even catch your dog and use your dog for suya. People will catch your dog and use it to do asun. If there is no food sovereignty, it is a bitter truth. Go and look at places where there is war in Africa and see how terrible things are because there's no sovereignty. Now, why do you think that Egypt and Ethiopia want to go to war? Egypt and Ethiopia want to go to war currently because of the Nile River. Because it is the Nile River that is responsible for majority of the food, for that river for the majority of the agricultural food production in Egypt. If Ethiopia dams that river and the river is not flowing upward properly to supply the agricultural fields of Egypt, Egypt is going to shut down. Egypt is going to become poor. Egypt is going to become backward. Egypt is going to become economically impoverished. Egypt is going to be ruined. And Egypt is begging the whole world, like, look, this is the only thing without agriculture, we are done. Without this sovereignty, we are going to be poor. We are going to become like Sudan or Mauritania. That's the bitter truth. That is why you see that human population are always running away from the desert. Go and look at Namibia. Namibia is probably bigger than the whole of Nigeria. But Namibia just has 2 million people. Look at Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan is bigger than Nigeria. Kazakhstan has maybe 20 to 30 million people. Why? Look at Niger. Niger has close to 20 to 30 million people, and Niger is bigger than Nigeria. Why? Because there's no food sovereignty. There's no food. When you don't have food sovereignty in large abundance that can sustain human population, the societies, cities are going to collapse. Societies are going to collapse. That is what Israel understands. The state of Israel understands that it is a country that has so much enemies than friends. It understands that fact. It understands that a day can come that its most trusted friend, which is America, can blockade it from having food. And what did he do? Israel started producing food, tomatoes, that you can use seawater in order to be able to nourish. Israel started producing rice that you can use seawater in order to water. Israel started producing food supplies, different seeds that can grow in the desert. Israel, a country that is surrounded by hostile neighbors, that almost 60 to 70% of the entire country it's full of is desert. In fact, the most of the 20, 30 to 40% of Israel water is coming from the Golan Heights. I don't want to use the word stone, that it annexed from Syria. That's and yet Israel now is exporting food, because when they understand, Israel does not want to be a country that is just existing on the surface of in the Middle East. Israel wants to be a superpower, because it understands that in the Middle East they are close to Turkey. Turkey wants to rebuild the Ottoman Empire. For them to survive, they must become a regional superpower. That is why you see you see many people don't know that Israel also exports gas. That Israel has gas. So you look at all the levels of sovereignty. Israel also controls most of the holy sites in Christianity and Judaism. Millions of people. So Israel is spiritually sovereign, has spiritual sovereignty, has oil and gas, a little bit of oil and gas sovereignty. It has food sovereignty. It has technological sovereignty. It has human resources sovereignty. It has economic sovereignty. It is so powerful. And it has a form of military sovereignty. It can fight any war against its our neighbors. Israel can fight on all grounds, on all fronts, for the next 10 years without anybody supporting it. That's why it went to go and do a nuclear weapon. And it's possible they are also increasing their nuclear warheads. Because you have to understand, this is the fundamentals of empire formation. That's why Israel can decide to go and change the world map and say, I am recognizing Somaliland as an independent country. No, you can't dare that if you are not a superpower. Only a superpower can go and do that. Only a superpower can go and change map. Whether we like it or not. We say the superpower, rising power. Some people use that word, but I used in TYF geopolitical terms, superpower, middle powers, and the rest. The rest làwa wà. Kò ní ká máa tanra wa àti tí Olódùmarè bá gbàdúrà wa lókù tó mú wa kúrò ní third class, first class, second class, third class, pass gan làwa tiẹ̀ wà, third class ẹ̀ tó dá pass. Tí bá tún wà lẹ́yìn pass tí yóò bọ̀ sí fail làwa wà, because you look at situation of things. And we are also happy. That is why some of us are so happy with the Dangote refinery. We hope we can get 1 or 2, 3 more. Singapore does not have oil and gas, but Singapore is an oil and gas superpower. How? Because Singapore has one of the biggest refineries in the world. So it is even better for you to have refineries, big refineries that can be refining 2 million per barrel per day capacity, than for you to have the oil and gas being tapped from your ground. That's the bitter truth. Because you look at Switzerland. Switzerland does not grow cocoa, but Switzerland produces chocolate. So it is the places where values are being added that you have the wealth, not the places where you get the raw materials. I'm sorry, what I'm saying now might not make my people in the South to be very happy. Southwest is far more richer when it comes to oil and gas compared to places where you are getting the oil and gas. Because where you add the value is far greater to where you get the raw materials. Let me also give you another instance. Where are they cutting diamonds, polishing diamonds? You go to Belgium, you go to Holland. You be touching shiny here now. And that is where you have you have the wealth. Not places you be touching where Congo, they are taking our resources from Congo. In the next 300 years. I'm sorry. Come on, God will not make Yoruba people to be placards. Placards. We must understand now how to be able to play our game of politics. You must understand it. One of the reasons why the Fulanis have not been able to know how they are going to deal with Tinubu, because the Fulanis have never been in opposition since the day Nigeria was created. They used to demand for power. They used to bully themselves into power. They will do a coup d'etat, scatter democracy, and they will get away with it. They don't know how to do it. They've never been in opposition. It's the bitter truth is the Igbos have also not been in opposition. The Igbos have not been in opposition since the beginning of Nigeria. The Igbos have not been in opposition since the beginning of Nigeria. They don't know how opposition works. They don't know how you use to build, what you can use to build opposition. You cannot, they don't understand what it takes to build opposition. So I won't understand Yoruba no more opposition. That is why currently, even though Yoruba people is in power, our people still want to be behaving as if they are still in opposition. I'm happy that people are now getting it. But it came at a huge cost. I want to tell you, because we are telling them, protest. Why when you can call your political leaders and lobby them, this is what you need. You want Yoruba jobs for Yoruba people? Yeah. Go and talk to your leaders. Talk to your others. Talk to your House of Reps. Go and lobby your commissioners. Sit down, organize, go into their offices. They will listen to you. Make requests. Lobby. If the worst comes to worst, embarrass them. And they will adjust. That was what many of us did, and it worked. When you are actually in power, you actually know kidney problem. You need to diagnose kidney issue, kidney problem. So food sovereignty, going back to food sovereignty, is extremely, extremely critical. See about the food sovereignty, civilization will collapse. You will lose war. You can amass soldiers. You can amass tens of thousands of soldiers. You can amass millions of soldiers. How are you going to feed them? How are you going to maintain them? How are you going to maintain the logistics? How are you going to ensure that they are well fed? No soldier can win any war on empty stomach. You cannot say soldiers are going to war. 101 or 001. So you need to be able to feed them. You need to be able to sustain them. That is what we call, that is part of the importance of food sovereignty. That is important, one of the things, that was one of the things that our empire got right. Why it built the most militaristic empire in Africa, in West Africa. They could produce some, even though at lose with our techniques in lose some special akara tó jẹ́ pé àkàrà yẹn àwọn ọdẹ máa ń lò ńgbà àwọn ọdẹ náà máa ń lò. That akara, it can be in your bag for 3 months. Kò dẹ̀ ní bàjẹ́. You can take it for long, so they can move, they can trek for days. What they just need is water and these supplies. And anywhere they get to, they will be able to eat. They will be able to eat it. So this is the importance of food sovereignty. So if you don't have food sovereignty, you'll not be able to survive. This is why Nigeria needs to properly understand. Nigeria needs to solve the problem of insecurity. Because if Nigeria does not solve this problem of insecurity, Nigeria is going to collapse. You must be able to solve the problem of insecurity. If you don't solve the problem of insecurity, Nigeria is going to collapse. Because most of the food supply in Nigeria is being produced through subsistence agriculture. You look at almost 40 to 40%. When they say, oh, people should go into farming, we want to encourage our young people to farming. We are just unserious people. You don't hear such a thing in Western, in advanced civilizations. Because just 10%, only 5 to 6% of the population are into farming. And 5 to 6% are producing so much food that they are even exporting to the whole world. But that they should be going to the farms with oars. So that's not it. Farming is not a joke. It is business. It's a multinational corporation in the 21st century. It's a multinational corporation in the 21st century. In fact, one of my professors in Germany told me that the Minister of Agric is the most important minister in the European Parliament, in many countries, in many European countries. That the Minister of Agric is the most important minister. It is not the Minister of Petroleum. It's not the Minister of Energy. It's not the... The Minister of Agric is extremely important. The Minister of Agric is so crucial. They don't joke with it. But the Minister of Agric, one tonra one ni. The Minister of Agric don't determine society. Minister of Agric don't determine policy. If the Minister of Agric sneezes, the entire country sneezes. Many of you here don't joke. Minister of Agric in Nigeria. Can somebody come up? Emma will go. Me host. Minister of Agric in Nigeria.
You know, honestly, me more.
Mr. Tunde Amabo lórí stage. Adédọ́lápọ̀, Tèmi, Akínyàdé, Mr. Tosin. Ta ni Minister of Agric Nigeria? Àwọn èèyàn ti ń tẹ Google. So people don't actually know the Minister of Agric in Nigeria. But we are talking about food sovereignty. So without food sovereignty, there is no freedom. There's no freedom. Minister of Agric. Go to the Western world. They don't joke. Minister of Agric, you don't even know the minister, and you're talking about food sovereignty. Olódùmarè gan ni ó jẹ́ ká ti wọ inú ogun lọ àti famine. It's God that has been sustaining us. So without food sovereignty, city-state civilizations are going to collapse. Thank you so much. It's been a wonderful time having this deep conversation.